Was at this point, or?
I don't think that Holden knew.
Yeah.
And nobody, none of my sources have said anything to me to indicate that. This was just, a good example of a bad example. The House shouldn't have made this an issue. It was fighting the wrong battle at the wrong time.
What do you think about the larger gun walking issue and the larger networks of guns trading for money, trading for drugs, and all this stuff?
Oh, I think it's asinine. These things always get out of control, whether it's the DEA doing it or CIA. When you are giving aid and comfort to criminal organizations, somebody has to be looking over the shoulder from outside the agency and saying, no, wait a minute, guys. Come up to reality for a second. One gun, maybe. 20,000 guns? Absolutely not. So, that thing should have been scaled back right away. But there is very little supervision on covert agents. That's how Nazis got to be recruited for the intelligence service.
Okay, final question. What do you think is the best reform issue we can have with the clandestine issues, how these things get nested so secretly in the whole larger workings of national security, which obviously serves an important purpose? What is kind of the main issue we should be looking at as we hope to maybe change the system for the better in the years to come?
Well, you get two options. You can either have a South African-style truth commission where everybody gets a wash. I think the simplest thing is that Obama, if he's reelected, should just pardon everyone who, within the executive branch, who committed a crime or knew of a crime, on the condition that they tell about all the other crimes that they had knowledge of. Can you imagine what would happen if the defense contractors all of a sudden had all the Defense Department employees saying, yeah, I took a bribe from this company? It would break the back of corporate influence inside the executive branch. It's time that something very simple and very drastic should be done. It's way too late for justice, but maybe it's not too late for the truth. I would like to have these people come forward and say, yeah, we did it. It was stupid. It was wrong. At least we stand a chance of rescuing the next generation from the crimes that we failed to prevent.
Let's hope so. I didn't properly plug your book, but it's excellent. It's a very interesting topic, America's Nazi Secret. We have it at INFOWARS, but tell us just briefly how it's part of this larger project, part of the Belarus secret, how that was shut down, and then finally, tell us where we can find your work, your website.
Well, I don't have a website right now. I've just been recovering from a series of back operations. Sure. Never jump out of a perfectly good airplane. I wasn't. But the book is everything that was censored out of my books over the last 30 years. After 30 years, the time clock expires. And CIA sent me a letter saying I don't have to submit my books for censorship anymore. I said, great. So the first thing I wrote about was all the things that CIA and Justice had censored out of my books in the last 30 years. And it gives you a real good idea. I use the Belarusian Nazis as an example, sort of a case study in how the system works and how the cover-up can continue. And I wish that, in hindsight, that I'd focused more on the Arab Nazis than the Belarusian Nazis because of their current advance. But, I've written some pretty good books. The Secret War Against the Jews is a history of covert operations against Israel. And it really is about the influence of oil money and oil power in world politics. So that's The Secret War Against the Jews. Unholy Trinity was about the Vatican, the Nazis, and the Swiss banks. The first book, The Belarus Secret, that became America's Nazi Secret, was sort of a case study in how the lies take place.
Well, John Loftus, I know you're a contributor on a lot of networks. I hope we can get you on again in the future because there's so much interesting things in history. It's so complex. Obviously, we can't tackle it all in one day, but it's mind-blowingly interesting.
Oh, it's a fascinating subject, but history doesn't belong to the Republicans or the Democrats, to the left or the right. History belongs to us. And it is what it is. If America's made mistakes, let's admit it, understand it, and move on. That's what history should be about. George Orwell said that the most powerful form of lie is the omission. And it's the duty of the historian to ensure that those lies don't creep into the history books. Well, I'm a former prosecutor, and that's what I'm about. I'm trying to make sure in my new career as a historian that we keep the lies from getting passed on to the next generation.
Well said and well quoted. Thanks very much for joining us. And that is not all for tonight's INFOWARS Nightly News. We now have a special video presentation. It's one of the most important videos you're ever going to see. I've been working on it with Alex for the past 2 weeks, and we really try to touch on humanity as a whole, where we've come from and where we're going, and the big challenges we have to face in the future. Stay tuned. That's coming up right now. For now, that's all for the INFOWARS Nightly News. I'm Aaron Dykes.
The mysteries of the universe, the age-old questions. Where did humankind come from? What is our ultimate destiny? The answers to these fundamental questions are hiding in plain view. We came from the universe. We came from all that is creation. We are part of the universe. We come out of this creation. The answer to the question of our existence is wonderment. The planet Earth is home to our species, orbiting a standard sun, 2/3 of the way out on the spiral arm of the Milky Way galaxy.
Here you see a super galaxy, a cluster of galaxies. Each one of these a galaxy on its own. Hundreds of billions photographed by Hubble. And Hubble isn't even getting out of our backyard.
We are in the middle of wonderment, the middle of incredible creation. Humanity has not even dreamed or the mind imagined the potential of our species. People say they want to travel to space as if it's some distant place when we are part of the universe, living on an incredibly rich and gorgeous planet in the middle of a universe with hundreds and hundreds of billions of photographed galaxies, themselves containing hundreds of billions of stars and planetary systems very similar to our own. Our planet is like a grain of sand at an endless beach. But still, despite the fact that it's so tiny, all of our species' history has taken place on this globe. All the kings, all the tyrants, the heroes, the families, the little children, the discoveries, the passions that were felt. All of those experiences have taken place here on this planet. And though our individual lives are finite, we are connected to our ancestors and their discoveries, their triumphs, their misfortunes. And we reach forward into the future towards our future progeny. And as long as our species is not destroyed, we truly live forever.
Of the countless species that have swum in the Earth's seas, flown in the sky, crawled across the plains, humanity is undoubtedly superior to them all. But that doesn't mean that we'll always be here. Hundreds of thousands of species have lived on this planet, sometimes for millions of years before their species disappears, often suddenly. All we're left with is their fossils, snapshots, shadows of what they were. Look at this fantastic fossilized dinosaur skull. Was it the inspiration for the space jockey in Prometheus? Truth is stranger than fiction. All of the thousands and thousands of fantastic species, humanity needs to understand that our existence is just as fragile. Scientists hotly debate whether it was a meteorite, a comet, or other outside threat that destroyed the dinosaurs. With humans, our main threat is ourselves. We've had the power to do it for more than 60 years. And every day we see different scientific installations having disasters.
We are the equivalent of gods to Stone Age men. And we can't afford to make the mistakes they made, because we will destroy ourselves with the technologies that we have developed. So far in our history, technology has been neutral. It is a promising tool that could allow us to grasp an infinite future. But at this time, the entire development of these systems is in the hands of the globalists, super predators who have a lustful disdain and hate for humanity. Globalist social engineers openly talk about the population of the planet like we're little animals in petri dishes to be manipulated, to be controlled, to be tested upon. Foster children and U.S. military personnel have had chemicals, biologicals, and radiologicals tested on them for more than 60 years because the elite believe that they're nothing but unconscious animals. I'm asking humanity to realize that a very small group of inbred, unhappy, twisted, and wicked people have seized control of human development and are attempting to establish a total control system of technocratic surveillance and dehumanization. It is now that we must begin to struggle against their bureaucracy, fighting their 1984 system with liberty and freedom and enlightenment and truth, until the levers of technological development are leveraged from the hands of the globalist. Humanity has a very dark future. The real threats facing humanity are not the fake environmental threats that Al Gore and the UN bring you. They are unchecked cross-species genetic engineering. Tens of thousands of biotech companies, universities, and governments randomly splicing viruses, bacteria from plants and animals and then injecting them into other animals. This is already giving rise to mutated viruses and bacteria and a irrevocable vandalization of the genetic code of the planet. High-tech chemical and, most importantly, biological weapons development. Unchecked nanotech, the artificial creation of black holes, antimatter weapons that the Air Force admits they've developed, and new viral vaccines coming out that re-engineer the brain by attacking certain ganglion systems so that you can no longer feel emotions. We've seen one of the biggest mutual funds, Fidelity Investments, come out and talk about synthetic biology.
Within 50 years, we may have invented more organisms in the lab than we've identified in nature. It's synthetic biology, and it could be the defining technology of the 21st century.
And how within just a few years, they're going to overwrite every major life form on this planet without asking you. That's 1 trillion times what Monsanto does, planting their crops next to yours. Their crops then infect your crops, and they come and charge you with copyright infringement when they polluted your property. All of this is being rolled out now. We are under a massive and sustained offensive by the technocratic psychopath guild known as the New World Order to fully dominate and wipe out most of humanity so they can control the next phase of our development. The United Nations, Ray Kurzweil, all of these different transhumanists openly say that they're not giving anybody a choice, that they're going ahead in this attempt to evolve humans and merge us with machines.
We intend to create a new vector for civilization, aimed at constant human development and evolution. The brain is transplanted into an avatar